This time on The Greats, Edith Piaf, France's Little Sparrow, Tiger Woods, golf's greatest modern player, America's most beloved First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, and the magic kingdom of Walt Disney. But first, John F. Kennedy, Part 2. In June 1963, President John F. Kennedy visited Berlin and toured the newly constructed wall that separated Communist East from capitalist West. He famously declared, "Ich bin ein Berliner," I am a Berliner, and said the Soviet wall demonstrated the failure of communism as the regime was forced to put up barriers to prevent its citizens escaping. At home, Kennedy faced conflict from those who were resisting the progress of civil rights for African Americans. The president sent 400 federal marshals and 3,000 troops into Mississippi to enable the first black student to enroll at the state university after the governor of Mississippi refused to guarantee his safety. The action sparked riots that left 2 people dead and many soldiers and marshals wounded. But student James Meredith graduated the following year. Kennedy was supportive of the civil rights struggle and introduced a Civil Rights Act to Congress in 1963 that outlawed racial segregation and required employers to provide equal opportunity for blacks and whites. However, a tragic event intervened that stalled the bill for a year. In November 1963, John F. Kennedy was in the prime of his life. Public admiration of the charismatic young family reached such proportions that the White House became known as Camelot, after the popular musical about the life of the mythical King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. On the 22nd of November, the President and First Lady traveled to Dallas, Texas, to gather support for Kennedy's re-election in a state that had only supported his initial bid by a small margin. In a 1961 Lincoln Continental, the couple was part of a motorcade that drove through Dealey Plaza on its way to the Dallas Trade Mart. At about 12:30 p.m., shots were fired from a nearby book depository, hitting Kennedy in the upper head and back, fatally wounding him and injuring the governor of Texas. Less than half an hour later, the president was declared dead. Lee Harvey Oswald, a Soviet sympathizer, was arrested for Kennedy's murder, but he himself was murdered in bizarre circumstances before he could go to trial. Inconsistencies in the angles of the bullets that penetrated the 2 men and evidence that there might have been more than 3 gunshots have led to many conspiracy theories about the assassination. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI, the Mafia, the CIA, or an unfriendly government have all been cited as potential suspects. However, no conclusive evidence has ever been produced to support any of these theories. Kennedy's death plunged the United States into mourning. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as the 36th President of the United States on Air Force One during the journey back to Washington with the body. Jackie Kennedy accompanied her husband's body on the flight home, still clothed in the same blood-stained raspberry-colored dress she'd been wearing when her husband was murdered next to her. The flag-draped coffin was taken to the White House and placed in the East Room in private repose, then moved to the Capitol the following day to lie in state until the funeral. On the 25th of November, Kennedy's state funeral procession traveled through the streets of the nation's capital, watched live on television by millions of people. The day was also Kennedy's son's 3rd birthday, and little John cut a heartbreaking figure when he saluted his father's coffin as he stood with his mother and older sister, Caroline. Only in office for 1,000 days, John F. Kennedy is remembered as one of America's greatest presidents. At the 1964 Democratic Convention, Bobby Kennedy quoted Shakespeare when paying tribute to his brother. "And when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun."
3, 2, 1.